Olivia, before the changes happened, was a typical lovely girl with Down syndrome. She was very cheeky. She had a very good sense of humor. She liked to play board games with us. She liked to, she loved Disney movie. She loved dancing, singing. She did swimming lessons. So she had quite an active life, and quite cheeky. Very a central part of our family. At the dinner table, we've got another two daughters. A very active part of our family and a lovely, cheeky girl to be with a great sense of humor and loads of love sharing. It really started to change actually exactly on her 16th birthday. That's when we started seeing change. We didn't know what it was at the beginning, but that's when change really started affecting her, the first kind of hit. And then it developed over, there's a first hit on her 16th birthday, and then a couple of months later, it started to degrade, and the regression really happened within a 10 days period where she went from more or less a baseline to right down to more or less at 20% of a baseline. So there we lost the lovely girl we once was to somebody who was more or less unrecognizable. She lost a lot of her skills. She stopped a lot of her communication. She couldn't go to school anymore. She she spent most of her day sitting on her bed, staring at the wall. For a long time, this condition's been misdiagnosed as early set of dementia. And that's because the sign we saw on her was very similar. I mean, sometimes she couldn't recognize us. She got highly distressed and upset. She would shout for daddy when I was in front of her. And it was really, really difficult for us as parents because we lost the girl we knew and we had to somebody who was a shell of herself. If I'd been doing some research online and she came across Down syndrome regression disorder, and she says, it's funny you use that term because I've been reading about this. And then we met with our pediatrician and then with a neurologist, and we were in that kind of strange position where they didn't know about the condition. We provided them with some of the literature, with the article published in journals, and they start reading and informing themselves, and they agreed with our view, and then she got diagnosed 2 months later with Down syndrome regression disorder. But it was tricky at the beginning, but we've been very lucky. We had we've got a great pediatrician, we've got a great neurologist, and a great psychiatric team as well. They're all working together, trying to help Olivia. She had several treatment, and she's still on the treatment now. The first thing she got weeks steroid treatment, where she had and that was the first thing she got, and it seemed to help a little bit. We saw improvement after that, and then there's two treatment at the moment which are being experimented. It's mostly in the US by Dr. Santoro. One is IVIG, so intravenous hemoglobin. We didn't manage to get that. It's a really expensive treatment, and I think only 2 patients in the UK had that as an experimental treatment so far. The second one is tofacitinib, which is a JAK inhibitor. And we put our neurologist in contact with Dr. Santoro in the US, and we managed to get Olivia on tofacitinib. She also then separately got over time. So we always would add one thing at the time to try to see what the effect is. So we always normally leave a 6-week gaps before introducing any new medicine. But we then introduce aripiprazole because she's got a lot of psychotic issues linked with DSRD. And then we introduce also sertraline for OCD and anxiety, which are also symptoms that she's been showing. Now, within 4 months of starting tofacitinib, she started to show some improvement in her cognitive skills. So we started that in September 25. And by November, we started showing some improvement, going up and down, and she started improving. And by beginning of January, she was, I would say, 75% back to her baseline. So baseline before DSRD was 100%. When she really was most badly affected, she went down to 20% of her kind of skills and what she can do. So that was really bad. We estimate she was nearly back at 75%, and we were really hopeful. And you know, we could live with 75% when we went down to quite a bad place with her. But then, unfortunately, no, just in January, just 6 weeks ago, she crashed back down again. We don't know why. It's like the original reason. And she knows, again, is back around 30%. It's quite difficult as a parent to see her back down, especially when we thought we had her back. And then, yeah, we've got to start again. We're not quite sure what the future is at the moment for treatment or for Olivia.